Is this thing on? Well, it's story time, and I'm going to tell you the story about how I sold a house in Oilton, Oklahoma twice. There was beautiful remodel there on Rogers Street. Some of you may know it. Big, beautiful house. Had an ADU on it, or a mother-in-law suite. It was great. Guy remodeled it last year. And in September of 25, I sold it to a buyer. Moved in. He was really excited. His son was going to Stillwater, so it's going to be halfway in between. We get it sold. We get it closed. You know, one thing I've learned in this is life happens and you can't really control life. And you don't really know what happens sometimes, and you can't predict things. But for whatever reason, the guy never moved into the house and kind of didn't pay on the house at all. And you can't really do that. It starts to go into foreclosure. Now, he reaches out to me, this is a few months later, and really wants to avoid foreclosure. So he bought the home for $299,000, which is a good price, expensive. It appraised back then for over $330,000, $331,000. So we had an appraisal on file. So I talked to him. I said, okay, well, you know, you're going to have fees. You're going to have all this stuff. If he's not paying for it, you're going to have accruing interest and all that stuff. So we found out that we had to get $325,000 at least to sell this home. So market, it's like, hey, you either buy it or you don't. But it's a beautiful home. We had 2 offers over $325,000. So we said, yeah, let's work it. So again, this is in May and June. Late May, I believe, is when the appraisal was going on. So we're trying to get this thing done, get it closed out before he accrues more and more interest, because he's not paying on the property. So we get a payoff. We know what it'll take to close the property as far as the payoff is. So $325,000 is what we're shooting for. We had an appraiser come in. They called, it was a VA loan, and they called it Tidewater, which means we don't have the comps for this. And I said, hey, no worries, I've got an appraisal. An appraisal from last year, you know, just a few months ago, that have this thing at $331,000, well within our range to get this thing closed at $325,000. They said, the appraiser said, no, I can't use this. I said, why? It's Oilton. There's not a lot of comps. So she fought and didn't use that appraisal at all. She valued the property at $300,000. Now, keep in mind, that's $25,000 short of what we need to be at to get this thing closed. So we put together this whole pamphlet, discredited the appraiser a bit because she's known for doing some lower stuff like that. And we submitted it to the VA, and the VA chose to raise it to $325,000 so we could get this home to a close and bring more people to a rural community. So, you know, sometimes you got to get creative, and sometimes you just got to work together and get some deals done. And that is a story of how I closed this house twice.